Pete Yost here for the Unbuild It podcast with a quick word from our sponsor, Huber Engineered Woods. Upcoming is the Next in the Building Science Symposium series being held in Boston, September 10th and 11th. 5 incredible speakers, Drs. John Straub and Joe Stiebrick, Ross Trethewey, Jake Bruton, and Steve Basic. All these guys have serious building science chops, and they do a lot of work in the field. If you want to check out the full schedule and register, you need to go to bsnbeerkc.org/Boston-2024. It's an incredible 2 days, the best beer and the best building science. And to top it off, all the proceeds go to support trades education. Check it out at #KeepCraftAlive. We look forward to seeing you there. And now on to the podcast.
Good morning. Unbuild It podcast.
Or good day if you're listening to this at some point, not in the morning.
Yeah, but it's morning here.
Okay, fair.
Are you calling the pigs home or something? I wasn't sure.
No, that's my Robin Williams. It's my tribute to Robin Williams.
Was that character based on a real person?
I don't know.
I wonder if you're actually doing a tribute to someone doing a tribute.
To doing someone.
Is that tribute squared?
It's a second level tribute. Ooh. You like that, don't you?
It's like most of the marketing schemes you get involved with. There are multiple levels.
There are multiple pyramids that I get involved.
It's not a pyramid so much as it is a triangle where there are people above other people.
Yeah, there you go.
I have to write stuff down because I don't remember what you're talking about now.
There you go. So, like I said, good morning. Unbuild It podcast. Steve Basic here with these two jamokes, Jake Bruton.
Hello.
Peter Yost.
Howdy.
I know they like.
What's a jamoke?
I don't know. I don't know. But I think if you're called a jamoke, it's not good.
No, it sounds like a term of endearment to me. But
well, it's like my buddies, but I don't want to. It's like saying you're my buddies, but you're not really my. Like I don't want to admit to it. So you're a jamoke.
So the friends you're a little embarrassed of and for.
Yeah, just not. It's like yes.
They're
my friends, but yeah, I'm not going to proudly say it. So you're a jamoke.
Okay.
All right. So take it for what it's worth. Anyways, so me and the two jamokes, we got a good one for you today because this is going to give you a little insight, not quite a bio, but it's not something that is like hard pressed. Like let's talk about foundations or the building science of wall assemblies. We're actually going to take you back into our lives. It could be a day, it could be 10 or 20 years ago, but we're going to pose the question of, let's talk about, it can either be a positive moment in our career or a negative moment, but something that lies on that outer edge that we remember very vividly or we care about or hold.
Can we call it significant moments?
Significant moments, okay. Yeah. But we can either hold them in disdain or hold them in high regard. It's up to you. So,
is there any limit to how personal we get, or is this?
Well, it's limited to how much you want to reveal.
Yeah. Good. Okay.
So
really, can we agree no stories about chafing? Peter,
in the parsonage.
I'm just thinking ahead here.
You know, as soon as I asked for boundaries, I thought,
why did I do
Jake is going to go boundaryless.
So when I was 17 in a parsonage,
you still get money from the Catholic Church?
No, ouch. That's a bad joke. That's a very bad joke.
That's your joke.
I know, but I don't say it in public.
I'd like to pre-apologize for what's about to happen on this podcast.
Oh, man. The answer's no.
The answer's no.
All paid up. All right. So go ahead, Peter. Just say something, please.
Okay. All right.
Just shut up and
Steve
say something.
In a hole.
So I think I'd been married maybe just over a year, and I was a full-time, builder and carpenter with my brothers.
Back.
Yeah, it's pretty far back. It's before they had. You talk about combustion-driven, nailers. This is like almost before we had hammers. So we were just
a bunch of rocks. Okay.
Anyway, I was at work and I was having a lot of difficulty with my left leg, and I actually had to prop it up on the stool to do trim work. And the carpenter I was working with, a really good friend of mine.
Hold on.
All I can see is like Peter standing there and he's got his leg like up on the fourth rung of the ladder, like he's Jane Fonda in the middle of her workout. And
It was that bizarre looking. Anyway, this guy who
Yeah, the people that worked with him probably didn't raise an eyebrow.
Oh, they just said that's Peter.
That's Peter.
They're like, oh, it's Peter.
Sorry.
doesn't everybody do trim like this? Anyway, I was in a lot of pain, and this guy who never went to the doctor, he said, Peter, you really have somebody look at that. So anyway, I finally got painful enough and swollen enough that I went to the doctor, who was a client of ours. So walked into his room, his waiting room, and he goes, head right back. He, he dropped my pants. He's looking at the leg, and he said to the,
This is just so wrong.
Yeah. There's so many jokes.
If you're just listening to this while you're driving, you're like, what?
Anyway,
He called us back into the story. Peter is pantsless.
With his leg up on the ladder.
Sans trow.
He calls out the door, call an ambulance. And, that was pretty sobering to me. Anyway, turns out I had a blood clot in my leg, and it was career ending. I tried for 6 months to continue to wear a belt, but I had a deep venal thrombosis that meant that valves were blocked in my leg, and I would work all day, and then I'd have to come home, put my leg up on the couch to get enough blood out to go back to work the next day. My wife was in school full time, and all of a sudden I'm like, I can't be a builder anymore. That's the way it's going to work. So you could say, well, that's a pretty significant moment, but that's the whole reason I'm sitting here today, because I'd probably still be a builder if it hadn't been for knocking me off the job site, got me back into graduate school to then end up working at the NAHB Research Center. So if you had asked me, 3 months into all of this, I was depressed. I was scared. Wasn't able to support, the family we wanted to develop. And I went from there to a whole new way of doing things and being paid to learn about all the stuff that I never had time to learn when I was a carpenter. So it's, Steve, we were talking about how sometimes the worst moments turn into some of the best moments. That's kind of where it was based. But all the fun you were just making of me is fully deserved, because I wasn't filtering this stuff in my head before I said them. And I know it led to all these images in your head.
I'm still trying to rid like you with a leg up on the ladder, putting in trim.
I'm picturing it on a miter saw stand, like he's trying to do
like it's like a ballet bar,
Exactly.
He's trying to practice his ballet on the.
So it's really funny that you took the this is the worst moment turned into the best moment approach, because both of the things that I've written down are exactly that.
Huh.
Like I had no idea.
You did ballet while you were doing trim.
They mostly involved me having no pants on. Yes. No, I had a project that if you come to the building science symposiums, there are some pictures of it in the presentation. In 2015, that I lost $180,000 on.
Mm.
And I lost $180,000 on it.
Did you find it?
No, I did not find it. It took me years to recoup it, tiny bits at a time. I was not a real business person.
Mm-hmm.
I did things on a handshake. I trusted my clients implicitly. Like I'm a very trusting person. If you tell me that something happened, I go, oh, that's what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Not what you want me to think that that's what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't realize that all of their, I'm very busy during the day. Can we have all of our meetings after the job sites close down for the day, where it's just them and I, was their way of not acknowledging that they had ever had those conversations about things.
Holy
so we had
smokes.
change orders that it was just like, yeah, we can do that. It's going to cost about this. Okay. And then when I went to bill them for it, I went to bill like the last $200,000.
Holy smokes.
And was like 180 of that was all change orders, and 20 of it was per original contract. And they were like, we never signed off on any of that. What are you talking about?
That's cold blood.
And it was like, I had no idea that these good Christian people, as they put out to the world,
mm-hmm.
we're going to do that to us. And so I went to my attorney, and my attorney said, I know the guy, I know who his attorney is, just because it's a small town sort of thing. Let me talk to him. And the next day my attorney called and said, it's rightfully your money. Like, there's the state agrees with the way that it works. They asked for something, you did it. They haven't objected to the cabinets being in that room. So clearly that's their approving. They owe you that money. And I was like, great. And he said, guy makes about $90,000 a month, which at the time was substantially more than my company brought in a month. And he's willing to spend way more than $180,000 to keep you from getting that $180,000. Like,
he knows he can take you to the mat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he can draw it out longer than I can.
Yeah. And he's counting on that.
So the two follow-ups after that were, a few weeks later, we were buying a Christmas tree at a very nice ride the wagon into the woods and get a Christmas tree. And the guy was there and accosted my family and started yelling at everyone. And like, I tied a Christmas tree onto the car and then got into the car, and all 4 of the other people in my family are inside the car crying because this guy's screaming and yelling.
Holy smokes.
Very white trash moment in my life.
I would have told the kids to buckle up, and I would have T-boned the hell out of his car. That's just me.
And then the way that we stayed in business is I had long-term relationships with everybody that we owed money to. So I paid my guys and then went to the lumberyard, that was quite a bit of it actually, and said, I can't pay this. I'm going to go out of business unless you can help me in some way. Mm-hmm. And the guy who owned the lumberyard said, how long is it going to take you to pay it off? Like, what, if you're going to make payments, what can you afford a month?
Yeah.
And I basically said, I can come up with $4,000 a month. Like, I was covering my bills, but not doing anything extra with that money. I was like, I can pay you $4,000 a month. And he said, okay, I'm going to take it off of my books. You're going to take it off of your books. Just zero it out. It's a personal loan. It's between you and I. No one needs to know about it. Sign this like one handwritten piece of paper saying that you're going to pay 2% interest on it.
Was this the owner of the business?
Owner of the yard?
Wow.
And I made payments for 4 years or something like that on it. And it was brutal. Like, it changed our outlook as a company financially. It changed our ability as a company financially. It changed our personal household. Like, we were going to build a house and we didn't. So
where's the bright side in all this, Jake?
The bright side is it taught me how to be a business person, and I've not had it happen again.
And
we went to contracts. We went to doing things like a real business. Mm-hmm. I say that a lot, like a real business, because our industry is notorious for, I own a truck, I have a hammer, I can contract and make contact. I can build things for people.
You didn't get into building to build a business. You got into building because you like to build things. Yeah.
And it completely changed the way that my business operated. We're more profitable now than we ever have been in the history of the company. This is our 40th year in business. I don't think that I don't see a future in which the company's existence is in jeopardy. And if you would have asked me that in 2015, I would have been like, yeah, we could go out of business next year. Yeah. I have no idea where the money's coming from, whether or not we're going to be able to pay our bills, all this stuff. And now, because of that hardship and my like, oh crap, I run a business, I have to figure out how to be a business person and not a carpenter. Mm-hmm. That caused us to get to a point where we can supply trucks and cell phones and computers and 401ks to our employees and a real working livelihood. And so, like, while it really sucked for a couple years and it really challenged my wife's faith in my ability to support our family, rightfully so, it's been like the best learning experience I possibly could have had. Now, I would have liked to learn all those lessons without $180,000 being attached to it, but it is what it is.
I'm a little disappointed in the story because there's nothing where you drop your pants, but other than that,
not even to try to pay my debts.
It's unbelievable.
Okay, Steve, you got to
people. They don't believe me.
Significant. Basic moment.
Mine's an extremely happy, proud moment. And I have a couple of them, and one of them is somewhat of a continuous moment. So it'll probably never end. So as an architect working from home, my office was in the house. One of my daughters, Lexi, she used to come and sit in my lap, and I would open up SketchUp and we would design her house. And for the life of me, she always wanted circles and towers and all of this stuff, like a real princess.
Like a real architect.
And well, I could never resolve the idea of like all of these towers, but just the idea. It was like, it was fun designing, certainly for real people, but just like getting out of that and having a moment with my daughter where she would sit in my lap and she got involved in what I did in just kind of a different world. Right. It was La La Land, make believe, where we would do that. And then fortunately, she went to architecture school and graduated. So that was kind of the continuation of that proud moment. And now, you know, I get to sit 5-10 feet away from her in the office and we get to do this stuff for real together.
Yeah.
And, you know,
that's pretty cool.
And she says, you know, I want to be like you, Dad. And I'm like, you're going to be a lot better than me, kid. You know, and it's just really, it was a really great, when I look back at it, like how cool of a dad moment is that, right? That I can sit there and kind of trace through my career, her kind of watching me, interacting with me, but then trying to become me.
I think what's cool about that from one sense is that one of your most significant moments involved a modeling tool.
There you go. Well, so
to break the fourth wall, we just recorded last week's podcast or 2 weeks ago's podcast on modeling and how we all kind of hate it.
But in addition to that, Steve-Os, my son. Oh,
is this your negative?
No, this is another.
Or Steve-Os.
No.
Sorry, buddy.
This is good. In kind of another light, his teacher, it was career day and he was really proud. He's like, Dad, it's career day. Can you come in and do architect? And so, yes. And I mean, we're probably talking like second grade or something. But he was all excited about it. And, I went to the school and I brought my laptop and we were able to connect. And I thought it would be really cool if we went around the class and we designed a classroom designed house.
Oh, cool. What a great idea.
Yeah, but the stuff they came up with, like, oh, I want a helicopter. Oh, I want a submarine. So like this house was near the water. We had a dock for the submarine. We had a place for the helicopter to land. But they were so engaged and it was like, this is like just so cool. We got this architect, but they got to play architect. I was just simply moving a bunch of lines around. And so that was the second part. And I actually have a third part. My oldest daughter.
Wait, that's really interesting that it was second grade too, because there's somewhere, and I always think of it as being around puberty, where creativity kind of stops in little kids. Like they quit with play.
I think they become self-aware
of other people's opinions.
And it's like, I can't think about this.
And all of a sudden, I don't want to go, oh, and a submarine and raise my hand. I want to sit in the back and have nobody.
They were so cool. And I know somewhere I still have that sketch. I couldn't go home and put my hand on it, but I know I have it somewhere where I could pull it up, and Lexi's house.
You know, that would be really cool to put on your website.
I'd have to find it. And my guess is it's probably on like a floppy disk or something. I would have to retrieve.
You have to excavate it.
But you know, in sitting here thinking about it, I just had a third moment where my oldest daughter.
He's being a diplomat now. He's going to talk about.
No. This is because this is something a little different, and I don't know. I don't know the circumstances. She just stayed with us, her and her family, and my grandson for like a month in August, and then they went back home. They came up and hung out with us for a while, and she stayed in the room where it's my studio where I shoot my build show videos. And it just so happens that the other day I was up there shooting some videos, and I opened up the drawer, and there was a book, like one of these like construction paper stapled books that a second or third grader would make. And so I opened it, and it was hers, Nicole, my oldest daughter. And she was writing all about, well, my dad is an architect, spelled architect wrong. And he does really cool stuff. He designs buildings and houses for people who need them. And it was like 5 pages of a young kid talking about their dad. And it was like, it was just so cool to read that. Now, I don't know if she found that somewhere in the room and then planted it in the drawer, because honestly, I don't remember it being in that drawer before. And so I have to talk to her about that. And I've been meaning to, but I didn't. But anyways, all 3 of my kids, and I think part of it is, I jokingly would say that this is going to date me, but, I lived the life of Tom Brady, not Tom Brady, the football player. Or it's not Tom. What's the guys from the Brady Bunch? What was his first name?
I never watched the Brady Bunch. Sorry.
All right. I forget.
Reruns when it came to
Yeah, I forget what it was.
It'll be Pete's Resource.
But basically, he was the Brady Bunch. He was an architect. He had a home studio. The kids would come in and they would chat while he was sitting at his drafting desk and stuff. But my life is basically his, right? I have a home office. So it's not like Dad went to work somewhere out of the office. It's Dad went into that room. That's his office. Mm-hmm. And they know not to go into my office and take stuff off of my desk. That was one of our rules. But for them to sit at my desk was like, oh, I get to sit like in the throne. Like, hey, that's, Dad's seat. Nobody sits there. And it's like, it's a privilege, but it is, I don't mind that they do, but I'm just saying how they would view it. But having that, having a life where my kids intertwined with my work, where I didn't leave the office, is probably like the most significant part about what I do. I mean, I love what I do. I'm very passionate about it.
Your family too. You guys are super close.
Yeah. And yeah, we joke. I mean, you heard Steve-Os's comments when he's in the office. Lexi and I can't wait for him to come to work, but it's not going to be, it's one of those things like, be careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because,
I like his, I just wasn't feeling it yet this morning.
Yeah. He'll sit in the office and like 10 o'clock and be like, I'm like, Steve-Os, what is the matter? He's like, I'm just not feeling it today. I think I need to just take a day off and
mental health day
and, just go take a walk, Dad, and kind of see if it can come back to me. And I'm like, what the hell are you doing?
It's his generation's version of a smoke break, though.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's kind of interesting that all 3 of our stories, significant moments involve the relationship between our work and our families. And that's probably why, the strength of this podcast is because we're not just professionals together. We know each other's families. We, understand how important that is as part of our work. Yeah.
So it's, that like, I couldn't ask for a cooler life than to have those 3, be a part of it like they were. And even though Nicole didn't become an architect, but to just see that and have the memory of her talking about me in the 2nd or 3rd grade. Very cool.
All right. I got another one for you.
Go ahead.
Somewhere around 2012, 2013, we were finishing a bathroom remodel for clients, Karen and Dave. And it was in a condo. And she said, hey, we bought a piece of property. Would you be interested in building us a passive house? And I just said, yes, of course. And I went home and started researching passive house because I didn't know what it was for sure. I knew that it was a thing, but I didn't know what it was. And Steve was doing a video series on the Falmouth passive house with Fine Home Building. And I watched like 2 videos. I think there was only 2 published at that point. One on foundation and one on framing, maybe. And I was like, I've never heard an architect talk about stuff like they understood how we're putting it together. No offense to architects. You do a different job than we do. And I thought, oh, we should just work with this guy. And I called him and he answered the phone. You're at that point, you're a 1-person office too. And he said, yeah, that sounds great. I have one going out on the vineyard. You should just come see it. Bring your clients. And I thought, oh yeah, that's a thing that we do, is we just take freaking clients to Martha's Vineyard. And so I said it to the client, and she said, yeah, I don't know if Dave can get off work, but I'll go. And I was like, okay. And so we went to Martha's Vineyard and to Falmouth, and
wow, I didn't know that.
We went and this was late 13 probably. And we were riding the ferry from Falmouth out to the vineyard, and she got up to take a phone call, and you unrolled a set of plans on the table, and he had 1-to-1 scale drawings of sill plate details and how beads of sealant go in certain places and all this stuff. And I thought, boy, I think I might want to work with this person. Like I was relatively serious before, but I was like, this is going to be the easiest thing we've ever built. If there's nothing left to figure out when we get the plans, or very little. And that conversation on that ferry led me to going to the builder show the next year, because you encouraged me to go to the builder show, and you and I becoming friends. And now we're on a decade of being friends with each other. So that led me to meeting you. It led me to meeting folks at...
Yeah, because I remember when you met him, it's like, hey, why don't we go? We'll walk the floor with Peter and Mike Gerton. And you were kind of giddy about, like, I get to walk with Peter and Mike Gerton. It's like, this is really cool.
But it took me from, like, just trying to be a really good carpenter to trying to build a very energy efficient and comfortable home. Like, there was a huge disconnect between, like, man, I'm really good at installing crown molding, and I know which insulation to use at that point in my career. And we made an almost immediate shift. And it took, I mean, you and I worked on a couple sets of plans for a couple clients. That client didn't end up building a house. Another one that we worked through didn't end up building a house with us. Yep. Like, we went through the design process a couple times before we found somebody to work with. And it was like years later, maybe 5 years later even. And so that led me to darn near everything that we focus on today, is the chance meeting and the starting to understand what I didn't understand, and then me trying to figure all that out on my own. So you can see how that's a positive and a negative. Well,
so let's continue that positive, because there is a positive moment in my career that would be an extension of that. So we're working on the Hilltop house, and we were talking about the rear deck, the cantilever deck, and I come up with the sketch and send it to Jake and say, run this by the engineer, and we'll figure out what we need to change. And it was like, I just remember, like, when I thought about it, I'm like, wow, this is so cool. It's like, too bad we can't build this. I know we're going to have to, like, make some kind of change, the structural engineer. And then, I get the call from Jake, and he says, yeah, structural engineer says, yeah, he'll put some sizes to stuff, but he can make that work. Like, I went around for days like, yes, yes. Because I just knew, like, it is going to be really cool. And that's going to be a talking point that I can talk about, because it was like high building science, really cool aesthetics, and some cool engineering.
And to get a structural engineer to say, that's fine, that doesn't happen.
It was pretty seamless. Yeah. And it was like, yes, that is cool.
This is sort of a cumulative moment for me, but, I got an undergraduate degree in agronomy, which is basically the study of dirt. And I thought, when the hell am I ever going to use that
dork
building industry? I taught high school for 4 years, and I thought, when the hell am I ever going to get, do anything related to that, related to building? And the last thing, when I got my master's degree, I was fortunate enough to do it on a construction related topic. I use agronomy stuff all the time in my work as a building scientist. And the fact that I taught high school for 4 years made me better at doing presentations. So, in all of our careers, we think, when am I ever going to use that? I don't think I've not used anything that I've accumulated over the years that I've learned. And because buildings are complicated and diverse, so you can pull in all kinds of stuff to make them work better.
I will tell you. So it was kind of a scary moment that you just made me think of. The first time I gave a presentation, I didn't know I was giving a presentation.
Oh no, I didn't. I've not heard this story.
Oh wait, I think I have heard this.
We were somewhere. Yeah, we were somewhere down south. Joe's giving a presentation to like 200 people. I'm sitting in the back of the room, and like 3/4 of the way, he's showing something. He's like, Steve's here in the room. He knows a lot more about this than I do. He worked on this. Steve, why don't you come up and just talk about these few slides? Like,
Your brain's like,
that was like the first presentation I ever gave.
Holy smokes.
But the one thing I did, I went up there knowing it's like, okay, I got Joe here
in your pocket, in the back pocket.
Like Joe's not leaving the stage. Like, what better way to break the ice than to be up there and have Joe
behind you.
And I say the same thing to Lexi. Like when she goes to do something, I say, you just go and answer the question. If I'm here. Right. And the funny thing is Lexi she's got just such a strong personality. She gets up there. She doesn't feel she needs me to be there. Like she's happy that I am, but I understand her point of view. Yeah. You know, her whole 5 years in college, I was never allowed to go see any of her critiques or see her. Like she would send me the photos, but I wasn't allowed to go. And and I respected that because I know what she
didn't want you sleeping in the middle of it.
She wanted
he slept through every presentation. She didn't want me arguing with the teachers critiquing it, probably for one, because I would definitely bring something up there.
But yeah, I just remember sitting in the back of the room when Joe said, Steve, why don't you come up and say a few things? And I was like, what? Like, I was like not prepared. I'm just like, sitting back there going, you know, and then he calls you up there and it's like, oh man. So, but you're right. It's like, you know, and then like after that, Joe's like, hey, you did good. We should have you talk at IBA or this and that. And it's like, wham.
Off and running.
There we go.
Okay. I'm going to tell the story of the first time that you convinced me to put in a presentation for IBA with the argument, not that people need to hear what you're saying. They're going to pay for you to go. if you just put together a presentation, they're going to pay for you to go. And I was like, that sounds like a fair trade. Like, and I didn't have anywhere near the knowledge base that I have now. I didn't have any experience with public speaking. I didn't even take public speaking stuff in high school or college. I was nervous as hell. Architect that I knew walked into the room to say hello and then said, oh yeah, I'm staying. And I was like, oh, okay. And then Steve came and sat like in the front row, and 2 minutes into me talking, he's like sleeping in the front row. And he always says, don't bore me and I won't fall asleep. But the first time that I'm presenting, I bumble through it. I can think back and think how poorly it probably went. And after I was done, Steve was like, yeah, it was good. Like very, very much my friend telling me it was okay. But I had the other architect, the architect that I knew from St. Louis that was there, said, yeah, I didn't know whether or not I was going to enjoy your presentation. I've just been going to everything that Sam Raskin's going to. Like I've just been following him around all day. And I was like the guy who's in charge of DOE, Sam Raskin. And they're like, yeah. I was like, holy cow, I'm glad you didn't say that before I started, because I would have just been like, there's something wrong with my computer. I don't know what's going on. I'm going to have to not be able to do this. And I feel like, looking back now, it went poorly. It was not a good presentation. I'm glad no one walked out.
But that's probably how you should feel. Like your first presentation probably shouldn't be your best, right? People always ask me, like, what do you think your best project is? It's probably going to be my last one. Right, because that's the one that has the most accumulated knowledge behind it.
Fair enough.
So I'm going to go out on a limb here and say, if you have significant moments that tie your work to your, career,
if we got enough of them, that would be a pretty cool one.
It would be a pretty cool one.
We don't have to do a Q&A, but we could recite a bunch of people's
if you're willing to share, we're willing to share.
The industry.
So yeah,
questions at the Unbuild It podcast.
There you go.
Yeah.
.com.
So can I tell you about my recent ultimatum that I received? Right. So I love sweets. And my wife said, enough. She gave me an ultimatum on sweets. Like, you got to quit. End it. And you might think that like the decision would have been, really hard to make, because I just absolutely love sweets. But actually it was a piece of cake.
Nice. On that note, we're the Unbuild It podcast. Don't forget to leave us a 5-star review, tell a friend, subscribe on whatever platform, and don't forget that we're on the BuildShowNetwork.com now. We're one of the regular contributors there as a group now. Till next time, thanks for watching.
See y'all.
So long.